I want to dig into where we've gotten into trouble in human studies. Let's do a brief history of this, okay? I'm going to fly through this stuff now. So humans have been eating a diet consisting of meat and vegetables, whole foods, for about 3 million years. This is what I personally define as the paleo diet. And then the advent of agriculture happened some 10 to 12,000 years ago. This shifted the diet from mostly meat and some veggies to mostly refined processed carbohydrates, which had never happened before throughout all of human history, completely new. Now, fast forward 10 to 12,000 years, we didn't even understand what vitamins were until 1912. The electron microscope wasn't invented until the 1950s. Most of your parents are older than the electron microscope. Please understand this. When you think scientists are some fucking godlike creatures, the electron microscope wasn't invented till after your parents were born, okay? Now, the nutritional needs of animal cells in culture, this is like in vitro studies, right? These weren't even defined until 1955, meaning we knew nothing. We knew nothing at all about how cells and mitochondria worked prior to this time. We knew nothing. We didn't start seriously studying the role of nutrition in health until the late 80s and early 90s. So the vast majority of cited nutrition science we have was actually conducted post-2001, less than 20 years old. By the time significant nutrition science was being conducted, the standard American diet consisted of about 70% processed foods, which it still does today, mostly processed vegetable oils, grains, and sugar. And it had been that way for over 50 years, everybody. This sounds a lot like toxic sludge being fed to lab mice, doesn't it? Not to mention, at this point, we've now been eating grains for over 10 to 12,000 years, and we have significant anthropological data showing a steady decline in our overall health and even skeletal structure shrinking since the advent of agriculture and switching to a mostly grain diet. So what does this mean? I want you to think about this for a second. This means that 100% of nutrition science has been conducted on the most unhealthy version of the human species in the history of the world. Literally, we are studying humans the same way that we study mice, in an unnatural environment, stressed beyond belief, jobs without purpose, solely to scrape by, living mostly in isolation, without a strong sense of community, with a belly full of toxic sludge day in and day out. These are the subjects of our nutrition science studies that are meant to give us data to tell us how to live our healthiest lives. We have never been able to study healthy human beings eating a species-appropriate diet because these people haven't really existed since the advent of agriculture more than 10,000 years ago. And we've only had real nutrition science for less than 20 years, a couple of decades, right? And then people love to say, well, there's some indigenous tribes that are still around today, and we find them, and they don't have Western disease, and they have a high carbohydrate diet. Or they'll say, like, the Catawbans, right? The Catawbans, they're extremely healthy, and their diet's made of 70% carbohydrates. But again, these scientists, instead of examining whether or not those carbohydrates are species-appropriate foods, or the countless other lifestyle variables that make these people so healthy, the headlines will read, want to be healthy? Get 70% of your calories from carbohydrates. And then this basically gives everybody a hall pass to go out and eat American carbohydrates, which are nothing like what the Catawbans are consuming. And not to mention, again, our environment is toxic compared to the environment of Catawbans. So you see how just completely dishonest all this is. It's completely dishonest. This is so simple to me that it's baffling that anyone takes any of this shit seriously anymore. But don't send me another fucking nutrition study. I don't want to read it. I don't want to. Until we figure out how to do stuff better, I'm not really interested. We are smarter than this as a species. We have to be. We should have the critical thinking skills to see through this nonsense. But the cowards, I will say that again, the cowards in the evidence-based mainstream who attack guys like me because I like paleo, will always hide behind statements like, well, show me the studies. Show me the studies on paleo. Show me this. Where are the studies on Clovis? They know they're safe making these comments because those studies will never be conducted, and they know it. Because there's exactly zero financial incentive for anyone to spend millions and millions of dollars on studies just to prove that eating a species-appropriate diet is healthier than processed foods. Quite the opposite. If we did those tests, it would actually crush the big food companies. It'd be a big problem for them. That's the thing. So I want to drive this home with another point, and then I will take questions and comments and stuff. I just want you to remember that food is good for you. Food is not bad for you. So let me give you an example. If we take this same exact concept up here, right? So we're going to say Actually, we're going to make both people eat 2,500 calories. We're going to do a caloric surplus study, okay? So let's say I'm going to go crazy and say everything's controlled for. This is a thought experiment for you. Two people, identical twins, same genetics, same DNA, same starting metabolic health, same baseline metabolic health on two separate diets, right? So number one gets 2,500 calories a day. They eat nothing but 2,500 calories per day of strawberry Pop-Tarts every day for a year. And the other person eats nothing but 2,500 calories of grass-fed ribeye steak every day for a year. Their activity is controlled for, let's just call both of them sedentary. That's one variable out of the way. They're both sedentary. We do a comprehensive blood draw on both of them before starting this experiment. Now, I want you to understand, 2,500 calories is absolutely a caloric surplus, aka too many calories for most people. I kicked my ass today, literally did this massive workout with a 70-pound kettlebell and then did demand training on top of that, and I probably ate 2,100 calories today, okay? 2,500 calories is a significant caloric surplus for most people. But what happens at the end of this year, okay? So both will probably have gained weight, right? So both people probably will have gained weight, and people will go, oh my God, this proves ribeyes are as bad as Pop-Tarts. It's all about the calories. No, because one of them, Pop-Tart guy, is going to gain a boatload of body fat, and the other one, ribeye guy, is going to gain overall body weight, but he's actually going to gain lean mass. He will literally gain muscle sedentary, eating 2,500 calories a day of ribeye. Why? Because it's next to impossible. It's not completely impossible. It's next to impossible for the body to store protein as body fat. And this surplus, caloric surplus of amino acids and the complete lack of carbohydrates, this person's going to gain probably overall body weight, maybe. I'm not even convinced that they will. But if they do, it's going to be lean mass. Pop-Tarts guy is going to gain nothing but fat. So body weight is not the same. We've got to talk about body composition. Calories aren't the same. Body composition, not the same, okay? So the caloric surplus of ribeyes wins in the body composition department. Then we draw their blood. The ribeye eater, no insulin resistance, no inflammation, cholesterol levels would be healthy, most likely a CAC score of 0, which is your coronary artery calcium score, the huge risk factor for cardiovascular disease, probably 0 for this guy, no risk. I'd say low fasted blood sugar, low fasted insulin, a beautiful hormone panel. Again, guys, I've seen a lot of blood work. I've worked with over 1,500 clients in the last 2 years, okay? The Pop-Tart eater, on the other hand, after a year, is gonna have significant metabolic dysfunction. They'll be insulin resistant, if not full-blown type 2 diabetic. Their inflammation markers will be awful. Their cholesterol markers will be awful. Their CAC score will be higher than when they started. They'll have higher fasted blood glucose, higher fasted insulin, disrupted hormones. Long story short, the caloric surplus of Pop-Tarts, right? We'll call this guy Pop-Tarts. The caloric surplus of Pop-Tarts is killing the subject, literally, putting them at a higher risk of all the leading causes of death in Western society. But again, they both gained weight. They were both on a caloric surplus. It would be all too easy to look at this the same way we looked at all the other studies I just told you about, the imaginary things I'm coming up with here. And we would just say, the scientists would say, clearly a caloric surplus is bad. Both people gained weight. All calories are equal. This would be a wildly inaccurate description of what has happened here. How can people not see this? I don't get it. I really don't get it. How can people not understand that real food is nourishing and these processed frankenfoods that do not exist in nature are absolutely toxic to humans? Now, sure, the scientists can come at me. They probably will come at me when I post this, and we can dig into all the teeny tiny variables, the nitty-gritty details of this experiment, how cardiovascular disease progresses, how hormone disruptions happen, blah, 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 blah. Or we could simply say species-appropriate foods nourish human health. Non-species appropriate foods harm human health. Boom. That's it. That's literally everything you need to know about nutrition, everybody. I could close the doors on Clovis and go chill on a beach in Thailand if everyone would just get this lesson through their skulls. That's it. That's literally it. Species appropriate diet. So I want to talk to you guys about we must redefine food. Food needs to be its own category, okay? So when we say food, moving forward, we need to understand that food should only apply to a species-appropriate food, a species-appropriate ingredient, species-appropriate food, right? There should be no exceptions to this. And to be clear, I'm not just targeting the horrific processed foods like Twinkies and Doritos and Cheetos or whatever, the standard American diet. I am talking about all processed foods here. Orange juice shouldn't be food. Capri Sun shouldn't be food. Wheat, corn, soy, sugar shouldn't be food. Dairy shouldn't be food. Selectively bred fruits that are shipped in from a different country and somehow available in every climate year-round should not be food. Your precious almond butter and dark chocolate shouldn't be food. Pop-Tarts and candy shouldn't be food. Keto-friendly fudge brownie what the fuck shouldn't be food. Okay? Shouldn't be food just because it's low carb. Only food should be food. Food is good for you. You should not fear food. You should eat plenty of food. You should fear toxic sludge and eat as little of it as possible. Do you see how absurdly simple this is? But the idea that food is bad for you is so deeply ingrained in the subconscious of America, particularly females. Females, listen to what I'm going to say to you. Listen up. Particularly females. This happens all the time. I get clients, this person could watch all 100 of my AMAs. They could listen to all of my interviews with world-renowned doctors and nutrition experts. All of us talking about and citing over and over and over that red meat is a superfood. It is not dangerous, that eating a lot of food is not dangerous if you choose the right foods. They can see the incredible Clovis transformations, my 1,500 clients, and after all that, still somehow look at a 16-ounce ribeye on a plate and think to themselves, well, eating all that meat just can't be good for me. This is collective madness, everybody. Collective madness. And to be clear, to piggyback on what I talked about in AMA number 99, I'm not saying you can't ever indulge in processed foods. Like, I love grass-fed butter. I cook a lot with grass-fed butter. Sometimes I use MCT oil, keto-friendly snacks. I had a perfect keto cookie dough bar yesterday. It was friggin' delicious. I love those damn things, right? Some super dark chocolate, Taza, wicked dark chocolate. I'm not saying you can never eat these things again. I'm saying you should do so with your eyes wide open. Do not fool yourself into thinking that these are natural foods. They simply are not. I literally manufacture supplements for a living, and I'm telling you this because I hate when people are full of shit, and I'm not full of shit, okay? The name of Clovis, the name of the game of Clovis has always and always will be self-awareness. When I eat a keto-friendly processed food, I am not fooling myself. I am making a choice, eyes wide open. Even though these quote-unquote healthy versions of processed foods are not straight up toxic, not by any means, like the standard American Cheetos and Doritos and everything, they're not even close. These aren't toxic. But you have to understand the body still doesn't know how to handle them the way it knows how to handle foods that we've been eating for millions of years. We didn't evolve to eat keto-friendly snacks for the last 3 million years. The body doesn't really know what to do with these things. Even the products that I approve by Clovis standards, if they're processed, they are not technically species appropriate. So this includes the ghee, the butter, the MCT oil, the almond butter, the almond milk, the everything, right? All this processed stuff, because it never would have been possible to consume these without modern technology. They're giving you what's called hyperphysiological doses of concentrated extracts. Like, do you have any idea the amount of work, how impossible it would be for somebody to consume 2 tablespoons of pure C8 MCT oil in nature? Just when you get off this video, Google what C8 MCT oil is and how it's made, and then write me an email explaining me how you could ever find that big of a dose in nature, ever. Cavemen aren't brewing coffee, everybody. We have to go into these things with our eyes wide open, okay? So same goes for a few tablespoons of butter or almond butter or literally any other processed food you can think of. Now, again, I'm not saying never eat them. You will never get me to give up coffee. I did it for 6 weeks for my strict carnivore experiment, and I went right back to black coffee, and I love it, and I will drink it forever, and I will probably drink dry farm wines a little bit, biodynamic wine forever. I love those freaking Keto Perfect bars. I'm not going to give up Taza Wicked Dark Chocolate, but don't fool yourself. All I am saying is do not fool yourself here. That's it. Stop pretending that these are as good for you as eating whole foods that are species appropriate. They simply are not, period. Okay? So in conclusion, I want you to understand that nutrition, this is a terrible thing for a nutrition coach, whatever you want to call me, to say, but nutrition is the simplest thing in the world. Yet we have all these promises from so many different things. Countless fitness protocols, countless nutrition programs, tens of billions of dollars spent every year on supplements, ridiculous superfood products that were discovered in the jungle and will melt away body fat. These freaking MLM companies that I can't stand. Now we have intermittent fasting for longevity, comically bad nutrition documentaries, endless podcast debates that people just won't shut up about, literally an entire culture built around the obsessive pursuit of health, and we are literally the most unhealthy country on planet Earth. How do you explain this, everybody? All of the things I just mentioned exist for one reason and one reason only, because we don't eat a species-appropriate diet. That's it. It is truly that simple. So you can be the healthiest version of yourself. I'm going to teach you right now.